Hello, you're listening to UNS Talks, a podcast by the international architecture and design firm UNStudio. In our conversations, we deconstruct the built world and talk about what it truly means to design in a human-centric way. Today, I'm your host, Lieve Sadowska, and we're coming to you from our headquarters here in Amsterdam. As a part of our campaign exploring the new perspectives of UNStudio that we're bringing to the architectural design, particularly in hospitality, we wanted to expand our conversations to the experts working in also other fields. Professionals looking to change how we experience cities, both those local to us and ones we are yet to explore. While traveling and visiting new places is an exciting privilege, it also highlights many societal issues in our urban environments, like the lack of housing, lack of space, or the obvious higher environmental strains that these visits take on our cities. Today, we are sitting down with three guests who deal with such topics in hospitality and real estate and much beyond on their daily basis. They make these topics their livelihoods and they're truly experts, and we are honored to have them here. We're joined by Annemarie, the initiator of the Social Value Foundation, which she began this very year, as well as Inge, who is also the co-founder of the foundation, as well as the sustainability and innovation manager at Annexum, a real estate company based here in Amsterdam. We're also joined by Tim, a representative from the sustainably oriented The July Hotel Company, who is also involved in the Social Value Foundation. So thank you for being here. I think we can dive into the topic, maybe with one of the relevant things that we all deal with on a daily basis as citizens of our own cities. I think when we talk with colleagues or with our families, we're always aware of how our lives are in the city, of our daily routines. And one of the things that I notice sitting down with my family, friends, or colleagues is that we tend to talk about sometimes the negative aspects of the city and how maybe there's a little bit lack of space or the inconveniences. And of course, as professionals in the field, we get to innovate this and we get to move this forward. So there are things that ought to be highlighted. For example, the roles of different kinds of spaces and allocation of spaces in our cities. I think a really relevant example of this would be when we think about, for example, Amsterdam or Rotterdam, very highly densely populated cities. We know that there is a lack of space, and sometimes things such as hospitality might feel like they take away from public space, where in reality, we ought to design for cities that have the capacity to receive new guests, travelers, or own families, or simply new inhabitants. So maybe as experts who deal with the social values of our cities themselves, I'd like to ask what social value there is to be found in hospitality. What do you see when you look at these allocations and role of hospitality in our daily lives, just as citizens, as regular enjoyers of the city?
Well, I think, and if you say it like this, I also think about the belonging. You want to belong somewhere as a person, and I think belonging is something in the cities at this moment that we lose that in a way. The sense of, well, this is the city where I'm part of. I can meet people. We look each other in the eyes, things like that. So I think that is really very important. You can have a high density, a city or a high dense city, but I think if you don't have people who feel like they belong there or are being seen or something, then I think it feels like a negative thing.
So you're actually highlighting the hospitable aspect of hospitality, that it's...
Yes. I think that's what I mean. That you also feel, well, if you talk about a hotel or a restaurant or whatever, that it's, if you live there, it's also your hotel. It's also in a way your restaurant. And even if you don't eat there frequently or you stay there in the hotel, it is in a way, you belong there as well. So that is something I think we really need to focus on these days.
And to add to that, I think that it's initially in the core of the hospitality to serve guests and to treat people well. And that's not only meant for the own guests in the hotel, but it's also for the surroundings. And I think over the past, I don't know how many years, we've had hotels as an investment opportunity, maybe, as a concrete object in the neighborhood. And now we see that we really want to diversify that and give it a new chances. And I think that it's already quite in the core of the hospitality. So that is rediscovering ourselves. So which is quite a nice opportunity.
Also offering new, I guess, angles and a sense of discovery even to the common local or common resident in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
Inge, would you have something to add to that?
Yeah, well, at our Annexum assets, we've launched a digital tenant platform, and you really see that when you get to know your tenant, actually, we thought we knew our tenants. They only wanted a roof above their heads, but actually that's so not true. They want event spaces, they want to do their activities in the building, they want to connect with people, they want to know who's behind the door of the apartment, which is always closed, they want a safe environment. So actually, when you give them a platform or you have the conversation with them or give them, what else you can think of, you will get a lot of information back, and it helps well-being of the tenants to get a better well-being of the tenants.
I guess it is really different, as you say, when the companies where the owners of the hospitals, they interact with their tenants, the tenants get to know the companies, but the companies also get to know the tenants better. So I guess in a way it's a symbiotic relationship if it's truly done well and in a welcoming way, right? In a new and a self-discovery kind of way. This maybe also touches on something interesting in the market that we've noticed as designers and architects. We always try to keep our finger on the pulse and see what people are looking for, right? In all senses, whether it's discovery or this sense of novelty. Sometimes that can be in the center of discovery to begin with. But we've also noticed that recently there's been a lot of demand, specifically in well-being and in looking for new markets and new places to benefit your health, right? To benefit your health as the visitor or simply someone who coexists with these businesses.
I think you almost talk about the basic needs of people. I mean, belonging but also like green, feeling moving, green, meeting people. I think that's what you were talking about. I mean, in a way, I feel that we lost it in a way. That and especially maybe in the bigger cities, I think you also see that at least in the Netherlands, people are longing to live in the countryside again. I mean, not everyone is doing that, but I hear a lot of people. Well, should I not live in the eastern part of the Netherlands because I have more space, I have green, I have a garden, my children, this and that, and I think that in this specific time, I think we get back to this original needs we have as a person, and that in a way we lost it a bit. Maybe COVID, helped us all as well. That's always what they said. You were close to your house. You moving. You did walks. You met people and blah blah blah. And I think then we also learned that hey, that's important.
Yeah.
So not everything is done through the laptop or the whatever way of communication, but we really want to meet people and we need that.
Yeah, what Annemarie says, if you want to activate that, and everybody all the time is busy and nobody has time to relax or move to the east, or it's everything's going fast, I need to go to work, I don't have much time, much space, then how great would it be if you put it in your current building, so the building where you're living in,
you
there
feel
can
like
be green and
this
free
is,
and
quite relaxing in a way,
and have events or carry out your creative hobbies, or you can find all kind of things to add social value to people and buildings.
Yeah, I think also that's what you say about that COVID might help a little bit to get that societal switch. Of course, in the 60s, we were very efficiency oriented, and we developed that till an extreme, I think, in the 90s. And the last few years, we became really aware that it's not about efficiency and costs. We know that, and we discovered that people and how they feel in a city and what they can do there and how they interact with people and what role of the infrastructure is and other companies there is really big. And I think that we nowadays even underestimate the size of that that request and the demand from citizens. And I think that commercial buildings really can add to that without having to invest millions of euros. And that's sometimes the strange thing what is happening. People always think that extra effort costs extra capital, but that's not always the case. I think that the trick is, and I think that Social Value Foundation really contributes to that, is that you can find easy ways to have a big impact. And
for example, could you illustrate some of these easy ways that you have encountered that people have a real response to?
yeah, so when things like the whole ESG factor becomes like a regulation, people tend to become less creative, and that's the hard thing. So you have to be really creative to find ways how you can add to the community. So we try during the development of our hotels. We are currently developing hotels in 4 European capitals. During the development phase, we try to get our neighbors in to explain them what we are going to build. When they live next to a construction site, they're almost always complaining, and they might not like it to have a tower crane in their backyard. But when you explain them and show them what the building will be, and that they have an active role in that they can get a discount in our building, and that also during the operation of the hotel, that we help elderly houses. We do community days 2 times a year in all the hotels, where we use our hospitality mindset to give back to the surroundings also. And I think this, it costs us a little bit of payroll, but it has such an enormous impact. And it also reduces maybe the noise complaints during construction already.
Yeah.
So I think that is a very easy way to think of these measures.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that if you have an active role as a participant, you feel the ownership and attachment to the company that also benefits the company. But for you as a citizen, it makes you feel like you're still a part of that context, right? That it's not, that your city is not overrun, that your plots are not overrun, but you have indeed an active role in it. It makes all the change. Would you say there are other rather elusive social values that you've noticed in the hotel industry that in practice actually really excite people? Is there something that you've noticed in the many projects that you've been involved in?
I think we are always surprised by the level of engagement people want in the surroundings. So in our open hotels, we always see that people want more engagement. And I don't know if that is something what is typical for Amsterdam, but we see that when we do something with the neighborhood, we give a little bit back, that there comes a lot of response in that. So
that says enough, that Tim says that people are getting so enthusiastic when they're actually only just a little bit involved in a building project. That says enough, how people are usually not feeling involved with what an investor is doing, what an owner is doing. So we can really make a difference there by just communicating and involving them in decisions we're going to take, because a lot of people have great ideas and we're not listening to them because we only want to have a good rendement or a good hotel, or that's a shame. So there's really a chance also for the Social Value Foundation to make a difference out there.
I think, it's also really a change, because I know a couple of years ago I was at a very big, how do you say that? Conference.
Yeah.
And then these developers and builders, they said, now, from now on, we'll start to listen to the client. And I thought, what?
From now on.
No, but I mean that was like really an ambition, and I thought, what is this? What is happening? What did happen in a way? I think that you also mentioned that we're very much focused on efficiency, and I think also when we talk with people, that can be a hurdle as well, because they want something, and then I need to do something with it, what they want, and how. I mean, that will cost a lot of money, so why should I? And yes, I really think that is changing, also culture-wise, but it has a huge impact on our real estate sector.
And I think that is exactly the same switch, which I already mentioned, is that, and you see that in the investor roles as well. So the investors, of course, want a good return, which is logical, but they really, at least our shareholders, really do value the effect you have on your society and what you do. And that becomes a large remark in your NPV or IRR request. So it's nice that you achieve it. does it cost society or does it add to society?
Yeah.
And I think that at least I'm very happy that our shareholders ask these questions, because that really means that from the top investors in the Netherlands, we really see that drill down to the actual developments.
Yes, and
Yeah.
carrying out. Don't be shy to carry out what you add on social impact. So you really need a driver, somebody who has it in his DNA, who says, okay, I'm going to do this, and this is what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, and you need to help me. Or I think that's success.
I think that
factor too.
that is really important, because we talk with a lot of companies at this moment, and some banks. I will not mention names, but I've learned that even though they take good initiatives as well for society, for example, on children programs or solar panels on buildings, and then the income of the solar panels comes to the people who live in the neighborhood. So that is really positive. But these companies are really, in a way, scared to share that, because it will be bounced back as well. So it could bounce back.
You
so
mean because of greenwashing? Maybe it looks like
greenwashing. I mean,
greenwashing.
that is
Yeah.
very easy to mistrust initiatives to being taken, and that is, in a way, that's really a pity. And I think we also will. I think communicating that things are really good and the intention is really positive.
Right.
I think that is also really important.
And celebrate the smaller victories also.
Yes,
It
Yeah,
doesn't,
you
absolutely.
must
you just
dance.
need,
Yeah.
you
Super
don't need to
important.
create the biggest impact
No.
ever,
No.
but every small contribution is a
Yes.
contribution.
Right.
Yeah.
There is an interesting thing that you touched on, that there's a relationship between metrics and kind of like the soft values of, for example, happiness or enjoyment, or the real connection that the neighborhood feels to the business. I wonder if there are any indicators or measurements that you use to measure this, because when you were talking about stakeholders or companies, it's very, it's a very number driven.
Yeah.
Everything is measured, right?
Data.
Progress is
We-
measured.
yeah.
Data is data. It's numbers. So I wonder if there are ways how you measure this, how you measure these inherently social, human-centric values, and how you translate that to your projects to see if people are actually connecting, if people are actually enjoying their symbiotic relationship to the businesses.
Our hotels in Rotterdam, which Annexum owns, recently got rebranded to Hilton, and I think they're very strong in measuring the S of ESG, because they have a lot of non-profit organizations. They have many community programs. And what they do is track all the data from the Hilton hotels all over the world and put it in one data system. And then they have beautiful graphics and visuals where you can see how much they score on each part. So for that, it really gives an insight to the hotel management and the operational staff and the investors, what they're doing and what they are achieving as a Hilton brand worldwide.
I think focus is important as well, to add on what you just said. I think in the Netherlands, at this moment, we have a huge challenge, you could say, on loneliness and poverty.
Yeah.
And I think it's also really important for all our projects or programs to see what we really want to solve and what is the role of the built environment, and then specifically the hospitality sector, where you can really add value. So that is also the idea of the Social Value Foundation, that we create one language which is really based on what is really needed to be done. So we also talk with, for example, government on the health ministry, the Volksgezondheid called. I don't know exactly the word in English, sorry, but we also talk with them to see how, with the Social Value Foundation, we can add value, or we can help actually to solve is a big word, but in a way to solve the problems they see related to the built environment and health. So I think that is really interesting also for our sector, working in real estate as an architect or whatever, developer, builder, to focus on what does the city really need. And I think in the Netherlands that goes fast, talking about poverty issues and loneliness.
Yeah, and I sometimes have the feeling that the national government is a bit scared to ask commercial companies to contribute in this,
Yeah, they are.
while they actually are really willing to do this.
Yeah.
And the fun thing is that we see that several initiatives we take or things would just happen if you see your hotel or your building as a part of the society. We see that it also gives back. So, for example, we have people in the environment, in the neighborhood living. They come for coffee at our place, and their kids ask, "Can we do something in your hotel?" And they say, "Yeah, of course. You can fold some napkins, or you can sort out some straws. I don't know." And we really try to stimulate it in a positive way. And when they are a bit older, they might help as a first job in the dishwashing area or in the service department. And so that gives back again. We know that in this current economy, it's really hard to get new staff in hospitality. So that contributes.
That's great. And the circle is round again.
It's round, yeah.
No, it's great if the locals can plug in some way, right?
Yeah.
And if there's that mutual benefit, right?
Yeah.
I wonder, so you're joining this conversation not just as professionals in your areas, working with the foundation or in real estate or hospitality, but you're also joining as citizens of the city, of your own neighborhoods. So I wonder what has caused you to pour so much energy and love and effort into this. What is it that you see from your position? Why must we set a new standard, or why must the industry do better? Was there a moment when you had a personal revelation of, I want to change this, I want to start something new? Or what was that aha moment for you?
For me, I was in Stockholm in the Galleria, that's a shopping mall. And it's a great example for creating a place for people where all kinds of generations can have fun. So I saw young guys playing golf. I saw a mother breastfeeding her daughter. I saw a girl working at a laptop, but all surrounded in a very nice green environment, which feels safe, secured. And while she was working at the laptop, she could let her eyebrows done in like 5 minutes. It's all very
ideal.
But people
very
want
real,
that, right? They don't want to go to another shop and walk for 10 minutes. And so you have everything in that building. It feels good, it feels safe, and your mother is there, your grandma is there, your brother is there. Everybody's having fun, but while they're doing their work, their daily business. Yeah, that's for me, that was like a trigger. I wanted to do this in the Netherlands as well. Be more aware of well-being, and how can we create this with each other? It's so simple. You need to start with the low-hanging fruit, and I'm a real doer. That's one of the reasons why I'm co-founder at the Social Value Foundation, because I really like to make a difference, and when I want something, I'm going to do that. Annemarie knows me.
Yeah, and I think what you said is also getting things closer in a way. So I was never there, but I can imagine that it's all about
feeling
that
connected
in a way. Yeah, it's feeling, and I think that we must be aware that where you are born, that it influences so much your chances in life. So if we can to where you live, and also being helped in a way that you also get chances to help, for example, in a hotel, or that people see you and not being anonymous in a way. That I think that is really important. Yeah,
and to add to that, I think one of the best examples of that is the Amsterdam Houthaven district. As soon as you walk in that neighborhood, I don't know if you've been there, but if you walk in that neighborhood, you really feel warmth, safety. You almost feel a bit of a connection.
Diverse,
you feel that it's very diverse. Yeah. There's a primary school, there's indeed a hotel. That gives a really nice and a vibrant experience. And you really want to be there. I want to live there, but I cannot afford it. But that's really nice that they're the architects, the companies who want to develop buildings there. I think Bouwinvest is a big developer there. And the community, the council, work together, and they deviated from the original Puccini method. So the Puccini method is the classical infrastructure design, and they deviated from that to develop something more beautiful. Cost a little bit extra, but I think it's totally worth it. And I think that if we work more often together in this more ecosystem way of working, that we can develop immensely beautiful neighborhoods and cities where there's a role for everyone.
Could you elaborate a little bit on this method and perhaps your own observations of how it broke it, but in a way it brought it to the next level? Because I think these kind of things, when we notice, these are very simple like aspects of our lives, right? When we go on about neighborhoods, or we notice this really works, it's really important to take lessons from that.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate a little bit on this method that you've noticed?
Yeah, well,
how it added?
I think it starts off with an architect, I think, or a few architects with a vision, which is shared with the future companies and the council. And in this case, there was a very strong link to the Houthaven district and the buildings which were there. So they deviated a bit from the very metropolitan Puccini method, which is a bit gray, which is cost efficient, which is quite Dutch. And they work towards a red type of stone, interesting city lights, trash bins, all kinds of aspects. They changed a little bit to make sure that the whole neighborhood was according to that vision. And now there is a neighborhood which lasts for 100, 200 years. I think the neighborhood will get more beautiful over time. We are creating they created I think a second version of the Canal District there.
And I would be wondering how we could learn from this Houthaven project also when you look at all the neighborhoods where more like, poorer people live. How can we learn from developments like there and to put it in a way also in these neighborhoods? That would be really great to see what we can do. As you also said, well, some adjustments are not really that expensive, and we also talk about heat stress nowadays. It's it's a very hot
Very
day,
relevant topic.
but I would be really wondering when you look in Amsterdam or Rotterdam now in the areas where it's and energy poverty, and it's the trees are not there, and heat stress as well. I think, well, what can we learn from Houthavens, and then to see what we can do there.
And I think that based on that, there are many examples already in quite innovative neighborhoods where they see, okay, there's a lot of heat stress, we need more gardens, but gardens are really expensive. And they don't think of, or maybe there's a community group which we can ask the elderly with kids together, work in that garden, have some vegetables there. And you often see that these kind of things really work out well. And it then doesn't have to cost a fortune, but it does have a really positive impact on both the heat stress and the social interaction.
It's the little seeds, it's the little like glimpses from everyday life that even though it might be in a commercial context, it still works.
Yeah.
It's still a garden, it's still a community working on it.
Yeah.
Those are beautiful little assets.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also indeed getting the commercial companies around it in that neighborhood and in these projects involved, that it really works out as well.
And I think these companies, they want that in a way. I mean, they need to, because they need to report about the ESG,
They do, but
of
they
course.
don't know how.
But they don't know how, but they also want to invest. But it's more like, how am I going to do that? And will it be profitable? No, not profitable
Will it help?
money-wise, but it's also about trust again.
Will it come back
Will it
in a
come,
way?
and will people respond on it positively? So yeah, I really noticed that everyone really sees the same purpose we have, and we want to invest, but yeah, we need to have some help in a way, or
Yeah, I think that it's for a lot of companies who really feel the urge to report on ESG. For those companies, it might be quite a challenge to work on these kind of projects. At the July, we don't really feel the pressure of reporting on ESG, and that's why we feel very comfortable with launching these kind of initiatives. That's also because we have a very low average age in the company, so everyone's really progressive on these themes. But I really think that larger companies can use the help of Social Value Foundation, which forms a knowledge platform to share these kind of initiatives. And from a company perspective, we really don't feel any competition on this ESG point of view. So we are willing to share almost everything with others, as long we can inspire and we can make better communities and neighborhoods.
Yeah, I noticed that in the hospitality, also with other hotels which we've visited to learn from each other, that there's absolutely no competition. Everybody wants to learn from each other. It's so beautiful. In a recent hotel which we visited, we saw a beautiful solution by making the check-in and check-out more efficient. They integrated it in some kind of coffee shop and also a sustainable store where they sell sustainable soaps and then all kinds of nice things which you want to take home. But you can combine that with a check-in and check-out. So you have your very efficient process, and people who don't want to talk to anyone and just want to check out can do that as well at a computer, but they can also talk to somebody with a cup of coffee who's working out there.
Oh, yeah.
So you get a very informal and it's efficient. It's really cost reducing instead of investing in more people who help people check in and check out.
In a way, sometimes it's about creating demand for that simplicity,
Yeah,
for that
I think
ease
so.
of access, right? Lowering the threshold for checking in or checking out.
Also, it's important to do storytelling, because a lot of people stay in a very sustainable hotel, which creates social value or environmental impact, but they don't even know. So
Awareness.
yeah, because this afternoon I talked to a colleague of mine and she said, oh, I didn't even know that we're all doing that in our hotels in Rotterdam, for example. But if you show it on the wall or the ceilings by telling a story with letters or just a painting, and you can ask a local artist to do something which explains the city and the story of the place or connect people, you get a totally different vibe and create a connection between guests or employees by not even knowing you're doing that, right?
Storytelling is, I think, it's a heart of
essential.
Architecture and also heart of hospitality, right? It's that searching for experience, sometimes novelty, but just connection with a new place. As architects, we always try to keep a finger on the pulse and see what's happening in the market and where the market is moving towards, and actually creating a demand for these sustainable practices and creating a real hunger in society. It should be one of the drivers that we instill as designers, as architects, but also as developers, that we continue to move it forward. I wonder if in your projects, if your ongoing adventures, have you noticed any emerging trends or innovations that drive these values? Have you noticed the audiences looking for certain things like sustainability, or associating yourself with only choosing sustainable brands or sustainable hotels? Is there a search that you've noticed in all of your audiences?
I did, yeah. I think at Annexum we call that vertical villages. People are looking for social hubs, and we can tell about that very good as well. People are looking for social connection, activities, a sustainable place. A lot of heat stress as well in our buildings, so they're looking for green, and yeah, we see that a lot. And vertical villages, we explain them like a place where you can eat, sleep, connect. I explained before, but a lot more than only a roof above your head. And I think developers, owners, investors really need to look at that way, at a new built building as well as current buildings.
Right.
Don't look at them as just buildings. Treat them like how you want to treat yourself. And everything which you give attention will grow. So if you give attention to connecting, to people, to social, it will grow, definitely.
Right.
I think that's seeing these buildings, and especially hotels, we really see it as a platform. A hotel is something where people think of endless rooms, a bit of food, and that's it, and maybe a gym. But we really try to develop a hospitality platform where, and it's our quote is "Stay your way," is a bit that everyone can choose how they want to stay in the building. Do you want to come for a cup of coffee? Do you want to study? Do you want to get your hair done? We are also working with a hairdresser, for example. Do you want to go to the gym? Do you want to go full out for dinner? So that's a bit the choice you can make, and that's something where we really see that the target groups like that, to have that they can make the decision themselves.
And the more you integrate these practices, the bigger the demand, right?
Yeah,
and that ends up benefiting both the contributors, the businesses, the locals, right? As the user, you want to have as much choice as you can, and in a way, you are funding whatever choices you make. So if you are investing or choosing the green practice over and over again, or the more consumer-friendly practice over and over again, you as the customer as the visitor, you get to fund the right ideas. So that maybe a follow-up question: how do we perpetuate this? How do we, as an industry of designers and advisors and just professionals in the industry, how do we perpetuate this wave to the next level, where we choose the more sustainable practices, but also the practices themselves become more sustainable?
Don't do it by yourself, and you have to share knowledge. Learn from each other, visit a lot of competitors and work together. Use AI.
AI.
Super important. Don't forget AI.
In what way? Could you elaborate?
Yeah, a lot of people are saying, well, I did it without ChatGPT. I did it without okay, it's not something to be proud of. Use your data, use all the skills you can get, use innovation, and learn from each other. That's super important. Don't try to do it alone. Yeah.
Well, what I was just thinking about was, I think 17 or 18 years ago, I started Dutch Green Building Council, and we were not aware at all that green buildings would be the future. And I think we always said, well, you need 25% of the people who want something else than you offer. So if 25% of the people want green buildings, 2%, then you will have this transition being made. And I think so awareness also in, well, visitors or just as we are, people that we know that you can have another building and not a regular building. You have another concept of a hotel and not this, well, whatever hotel you used to. Then if you know that it can be different, then that's better. It's more like green, it's more social or whatever. Then you will, you have the transition I think, in place. And then if you have 25% of the people, then we don't develop not green buildings anymore or not social being hotels or so that push is really important, I think.
So
representation.
and
representation, but also
absolutely.
Technically everything is possible. That was the last 10, almost 11 years, I was CEO of Dutch Green Building Council, and I was always wondering, technically everything is possible. We know everything, but we don't get to reach all the solutions. And what is needed, I think that's the people. People need to ask, need to demand in a way. I want something else, and not the thing you are just normally offering me. And then I really think that we will go into the right direction.
I think there's already a lot in the current society, especially with the younger people. There's a lot of eagerness to have more of these developments and more of these changes in society. And the interesting thing is that you have to feed that eagerness, that hunger for more of these social aspects and for these ESG related topics. And we only have to give them a hand in the company, and they come to us and they say, I have an initiative, can I do this? Yes, of course you can. By stimulating that, it only grows further, and it's not growing linear, it's growing exponentially. It's growing so fast. And that's nice to see. And they share that with others, and other people take over. So I think as an early adapter or as a starter, you really have to feed into that and keep going, and then it will be fine. I think it goes really fast.
And positively, frame it positively. So it's difficult, complex, complicated. No, it is all possible. We can do that. I mean, it's also framing in a way.
Right. The optimistic mindset.
I think optimism, and we need that also nowadays. We need this
and
positive story.
Don't dare to make it sometimes a bit crazier. We can from these crazy things there we get new inspiration, and it's not always feasible, but just throw it on the table and see what happens. And there's always someone who says, if we tweak it a little bit, then it is feasible, and then we make it work. And I think especially in the industry where you are in the architecture industry, where there are a lot of creative people, it is interesting to have these conversations. And I really do hope that the architects don't feel the pressure of
doing everything perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And being perfect and working towards these budgets. It needs to be creative, cool.
I think as architects, we're always interested in exploring, and we're always interested in experimentation and seeing, as you said, what's like throwing out all the ingredients, trying different things and kind of probing to see if it was successful or not. That's definitely an inherent part of the design practice. And a part of that is also knowing your target audience and what you would wish your target audience to be. And as designers, we're often thinking about the end user. We're thinking about the person that's actually going to be using the space. And sometimes seeing the other figures can be a little bit a little bit harder. For example, the investors or the driving forces behind the project. So maybe a question I have for Inge is, besides creating this demand in the general public or us as the consumers for these more sustainable practices, for these more optimistic practices, how can we encourage investors and contributors on the higher ranks towards these better practices? Is there something
The
that you
magic
actively
word?
see? There's a magic word. Please do tell.
No, I don't think there is. But yeah, you need to take a deep dive with them in the strategy and the action plan and why you are doing that, what the benefits are, but also be realistic and tell them, okay, this is a risk we're taking, and this maybe won't work, this will work, this is what we can get out of it, and maybe show them a few example projects which were successful, so they can really see
Yeah.
it works. This is their track record, and most of the things from investors come from scareness. They're scared of starting and really doing things. But when they see you're doing a small thing with a big change, like Tim just said, they're going to be more confident. Okay, let's do that then, and let's do that, and if you carry it out in social media and everybody sees, oh, okay, they have like success stories. Actually, it can be as simple as that. So I don't have a magic word, but be positive and celebrate your milestones. Yeah, and you can promote, of course, green labels. You can advise about subsidies and tax breaks and all these kinds of things. But it's more in how you bring, as a driver, how you bring your success story about what you're going to do and why you're going to do it. And if you get everybody aboard, or at least 25%, as Annemarie says, you're already halfway. And then only comes the do part.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's very important also that you have insight in your guests and everybody who's involved in the project. And for that cause, you can AI can help really much. Who's my guest? So if somebody checks out, how does he feel about the sustainable footprint he left in the hotel? Or a contractor, how himself does he feel about his footprint in the hospitality sector? So ask people around you, interview them about how they're feeling and how they can cooperate.
See it, right?
Yeah, and I think it's really important that besides all the modern tools of AI, that we also look back on what we did. So I try to work every year at least one day in the hotel operations, to just work in a restaurant for 8 hours, and then you can feel what you actually created, what is the effect of what we made. And then you can loop that back to my development colleagues or to investors. And I also hope that investors do that themselves, and architects also, that after 3 years, after 5 years, you look back and walk to the building. What did work? What didn't work?
Yeah.
We try to quantify so many things in numbers and things. And sometimes we just have to go there and feel. And that's then your KPI. Does it feel nice? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. As simple as that.
It's a lovely idea. It's sometimes literally as simple as that.
Yeah.
There is this idea in computer science called the toy problem, where if you have a very big and massive problem in society, something that's incomprehensible, what you should do is not try to solve the whole thing at once, because that is overwhelming, but you should break it down into smaller chunks, and just to test that idea on the smallest possible level that you can. I think what you just mentioned is perfectly that you start with the simple things. Does it feel nice or does it not? Because if it does, we'll want to come. As customers, as employees, we'll want to come, we'll want to contribute. And if not, there's space to innovate.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also being very pragmatic. Then you have a nice innovation somewhere, which didn't cost a lot of money. And here you're going to spend a fortune on brainstorming about quantification, dashboards, and these kind of things. That's such a pity, I think. Just continue with the good work. And I think that having a good platform which assists you in finding out how you can report on these things is really helpful.
But I think when we talk with companies, that is exactly what they need. They say, we need data because I want to tell my CEO that it's really valuable to put effort in this social project, or that's a green building will add more value to the business or whatever. So at this moment we need data, but I hope within a couple of years we don't need that anymore, and that we just talk with each other. I think it's really hopeful that now the small children at basic school, so you don't have your iPhone anymore at school, for example, that we start to talk again, that we start to play again. And I think that's the whole thing that has a huge influence on how our society will look like within 5 or 10 years, something like that. Yeah.
So maybe the next step is to create even better frameworks to translate this data or these, very hard KPIs into actual measurements of happiness or wellness or investment.
What we say from Social Value Foundation is that first doing and then data. And doing then data. Sharing, showing, share what carrying out. So, but we also really made this choice doing it first and then see what you've achieved. That will be the learning curve.
We hope to see it only multiply.
Yeah, we hope so too.
I think it's also very interesting to see what is one of the factors which really amplifies that. All the stakeholders in the industry nowadays are willing to give a little bit extra. So investors are willing to take off a few base points from their returns to give back. Developers are willing to run a little bit faster to develop the buildings. The operators are a little bit more creative to really execute these projects. And I think that if everyone gives like this 5% extra, there's no one who needs to give the 100% extra somewhere, right? And that's what I really see, especially with Annexum also and the Social Value Foundation coming up, is that there are a lot of people who really want to go for it from all kinds of different aspects and stakeholder positions in the industry. So that really gives hope.
No, that's beautiful. I think, as you said, if we all just take that step together, we can move as professionals, just as people of this world, just your average Joe walking down the street, or just people who are interested in the industry and understanding the world at large. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the interesting vectors that we explored. I'm sure there's much more, but as we discussed, it's our cities, it's our planet, it's our environment, and we should all be invested in this to take that little step that together we can make a very big step. Thank you once again, and thank you for joining us. We hope you join us next time and keep being curious and investigative of the world and how things work and why they work. Thank you. Till next time.